bam, 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 bam. All right. Copy. Oh, hi, Internet. We're live on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Still not used to my mouse going the other way. I can handle it on the trackpad, but when it comes to on the physical mouse, different story.
Just change it.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. Just go into mouse preferences and change it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Maybe I'll do that. All right. Hang on. Let me tweet this. JF. No, not DF. JF. No, not FJ. I'm having a stroke, apparently. For a episode of Galactic Radio. No. Do that. A podcast. Right. I think we're good. There we go. All right, people. Thank you for joining us as we record another fantastic interview for the Galactic Radio podcast. JF Dubeau is with me. Hi, JF.
Hi, Dave. How are you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I am a little ill, a lot tired, otherwise fine. How are you?
Good. You got the con crud, right?
I'm not sure it's the con crud. I think it's the plain crud because I'm pretty sure I didn't come into contact with anyone that was sick. I didn't make anyone sick that I know of, but I've been on planes a lot. So
it's planes, it's change of atmosphere, it's just and being inside with no air circulating, right? It's just you're inside the whole time. So I think that probably lends part of contributes to it a little bit.
Yeah, and I haven't been sleeping at all. Yeah, so that's it breaks everything.
All right, so YouTube people, what we're going to do here is we are recording a interview segment for our podcast, Galactic Radio. And this is going to be one small part of a bigger whole of a podcast. So I'm going to be editing the crappy parts out. So what you guys want to do is you want to go to GNcasts.com/Galactic Radio and subscribe to that bad boy, and you'll get the fully produced, awesome sounding like we know what we're talking about interview with JF Dubeau. So please do that. Appreciate it. Now let's actually start the interview. It sounds so proper. The interview.
Well, right. You're a pro.
Thanks. Our guest on this episode of Galactic Radio is writer, podcaster. He's the author of God in the Shed and The Life Engineered, which won last year's Sword and Laser Ink Shares contest. You can also hear him on the... Okay, I'm going to redo the intro here. Our guest on this episode is a writer and podcaster. He's the author of the... Take 3. Our guest on this episode is a writer, a podcaster. He's the author of A God in the Shed and The Life Engineered, which won last year's Sword and Laser contest on Inkshares. You can hear him on the Overcast, Right Brain, and 40K radio podcasts. Welcome to Galactic Radio, JF Dubeau. Hello, JF.
Hey, Dave. How are you doing, man?
Not too bad. Welcome back to Galactic Radio, the Galactic Network. Welcome back.
It's my first time on Galactic Radio, though.
Yeah.
This is new.
It's
nice.
A brand new experience.
I know. You're going to edit out all my coughing. If I sound weird to people, it's because I have a cold that I can't shake. So, yay, I guess.
Well, yay, because it'll eventually go away. That's why it's yay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm patient 0. Maybe this is how it ends.
Okay. Thanks for being here anyways, man.
My pleasure. I'm not feeling that bad, actually. I'm on the upswing. I should be fine. Like, unless I suddenly become a zombie and start eating flesh, I'm good.
Okay. All right. To start things off, tell us how you got into writing.
Oh, gee. I've got this belief, and I don't know if I don't have any stats to prove this, but I think like 9 out of 10 people, if you ask them what's on your bucket list, what are the things you want to do before you die, 9 out of 10 people are going to say, I'd like to write a book. I've had that for the longest time, and at some point I saw come up on, I don't know, a Facebook feed or Twitter, some years ago, I saw the National Novel Writing Month challenge pop up, NaNoWriMo. I'm sure at this point people have heard all about it. And basically it's, you have to write a 50,000 word book in 30 days. It happens in November every year. It's a blast. I said, you know what? This is my one chance to force myself to write a book. And I took the challenge. And I wrote the worst book ever. I wrote a vampire book because I figured I might as well get that out of my system. And it's not good. But about halfway through, much like a crack addict going on his first high, I realized this is not something I'm going to be able to stop. I'm going to be writing forever. I never, at that point, I didn't have any hopes, dreams, or ambitions of making this professional or even getting actually published. I just figured I'm going to keep writing books until I either get good at it or just, hand them to my friends for them to laugh at me. And boy, did they laugh at the vampire one. But I just kept doing it. Like the next year, I picked up the challenge again. Then I discovered there's a NaNoWriMo camps in the summer, so I started doing those. And every time I would give them to my wife, and I would give them to my friends, and I would give them to people around me, and they'd tell me, "Oh, this sucks a bit less than last year." And eventually, someone said, "Hey, you should show this to our editor friend, and get it corrected because this is starting to get good." And at first I thought like, well, they're just being nice, but I went through the steps, and here I am.
Well, congratulations for getting here from there, or there from here, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what here is at this point. It's getting weird, Dave.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of things that you wish you could say on this interview, but you can't right now, because I know that there's I know what's going on behind the scenes right now.
Oh, part of what's going on behind the scenes, Dave.
All right, so describe your books and the inspirations for them. I know you've got The Life Engineers currently out, and A God in the Shed is coming out. So describe your books and the inspirations for them.
Okay, so The Life Engineered is basically my take on I would say far future utopic sci-fi. It's the inspiration for it. It's okay. Let me just describe it. I'm terrible at pitches, by the way. This is going to be tough for my career if ever I do make this a career. The story of Life Engineered is far in the future, thousands of years of future. Humanity's been not all but erased, but has sort of disappeared. They've gone dormant in the galaxy, and they've left a race of robots, a third generation of a race of robots called Capex or Chipex, depending if you want to take the proper Czech pronunciation, as stewards of the galaxy to rebuild some ecosphere, some livable planets for humanities to inhabit. And this is the story of those robots. This is the story of one of those robots who awakens, who gets built, purpose-built for what she wants to do in the universe, which is the reverse of what we do as humans. I mean, we're born with the bodies we have, and we sort of figure our way out afterwards. Meanwhile, these robots, they know what they want to be, so they build the body appropriate to it. So you have robots they're spaceships. You have robots that are swarms of robots with one mind. There's a lot of weird things, and Life Engineered is sort of my playground to have fun with these ideas as far as sci-fi is concerned. And this is the story of what happens when that race of robots encounters their first ideological conflict, and how they avoid going into a civil war about it.
Would you ever consider doing kind of like a prequel book, going back to when humans were around and kind of the origin of that as a follow-up to this book?
No. And here's why. The reason for that is because I don't think the how it gets there, like the how it gets to that point, is explained in some prologues and flashbacks and some characters discussing history. So the story is told, but because technology in progress, even though it looks very fast when we get like new computers and new video cards and stuff, is actually slow because it's slowed down by our own level of adaptation towards it. A good example, if tomorrow people could change their heads for robotic heads, and they just they would be better people because they would live longer and have better vision, better intelligence, etc. So most people wouldn't do that because scary. So there's always these social boundaries that slows down progress. So I think telling the story of how we get from human species to robot species in the future would take long and be boring to tell, except maybe in flashbacks and stuff.
So, A God in the Shed, what's that all about?
God in the Shed is the story of a small village in the eastern township of Quebec that has, for the past 3 generations, kept a god prisoner. It's not a god in a Judeo-Christian or most modern religion kind of way, but more in a existential horror kind of way. Think H.P. Lovecraft. So it's an extra dimensional creature with godlike abilities that they've managed to keep prisoner, and they made it evil by asking for things from it. And this is the story of how they lose control of it, and it winds up trapped in the backyard shed of a teenager, and she and her friends in a not so young adult story have to figure out how to get rid of it. And it's a horror fantasy book, so there's murder a lot. And it's a blast to write. And right now it's been my main project for maybe the past. Ever since Life Engineered was published, I've been reworking on A God in the Shed, because it's not even out yet, and it's getting some interesting nods and attention.
Which leads me to our next question.
Ooh.
Can you spill the beans on any exciting news or other projects that you have in the pipeline right now, JF?
I can. Here's the thing. There's some things. Okay, I'm working on a few things that I cannot tell because I am working on God in the Shed primarily. I've got a couple of other projects that I'm working on. I'm working on a sequel for Life Engineered. This is all public knowledge. What else is public knowledge? It's public knowledge that I was in Los Angeles for book reasons last week. I'm pretty sure that my manager at Inkshare tweeted that I had a meeting at Weed Road, which is a production house. So infer what you will. I think he's also made it clear on a public forum post on Inkshare that there was an offer for an option for a television series for God in the Shed. So that is also public knowledge. What else? It's not public knowledge, but it looks like there's going to be audiobook deals for things like A God in the Shed and Life Engineered. I'm not saying anything further about that, about who's going to take care of what, because nothing's signed, and this is the kind of stuff that you don't want to jinx, but like the rug can be pulled out from under. But I've lived some interesting things recently.
It sounds encouraging. It sounds like some possibilities there.
It's okay. Well, let's put things into perspective. One of the things that I learned in going through this whole adventure is that even if let's say there is an option for God in the Shed, an option is basically just reserving the rights to do something. So let's say Skydance Production options God in the Shed, which hopefully they do. If you're listening, Skydance, hey guys, love you. Just let's settle this. Anyways, joking aside, let's say they do option it. That doesn't mean it necessarily goes into production. They need to actually find someone to sort of finance it. If it does go into production, then they're going to do an exercise or a pilot, and then that needs to get picked up. So before you see God in the Shed on the small screen, there's even if it gets options, there's like a 1% chance it gets to anything.
So there's a whole process that goes into this. Absolutely.
No, there's a whole process. It's a complicated process. It's oddly a fun process. Like here's the thing that I discovered going to Los Angeles. I was expecting a lot of hollow Hollywood types, like empty people. You know how, like we see in the movie, how Hollywood is depicted.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been further from the truth. Everyone I met there on a professional basis was just awesome.
Wow. Cool. That's refreshing. That's refreshing to hear. All right, so let me get into some interesting questions here outside of your JF specific things. Let's let's talk about. Okay, I'll just ask the question: if you could climb inside and live in one video game world, which one would it be and why?
I mean, my first reaction would be none, because the whole idea of playing a video game is facing life or death conflicts for most of the time, for most of them, or like The Sims, where you can get locked into a pool and drown there because the guy playing it is cruel.
Let me re-ask it.
Okay.
If you have to, if you were forced to live inside a video game world, which one would it be and why?
This is gonna sound super weird because I know the game is getting banned, but I could live in No Man's Sky, get your own ship, get to travel. I mean,
yeah.
It sounds boring the way people have described how easily you can get the end game and there's not that many options out of there. But if you're gonna live somewhere, having just all these places to explore, assuming that the world is more realistic because you live in it, that doesn't sound too bad.
I thought for sure you were going to say Overwatch, since you do a podcast about it.
Overwatch implies shooting people. Again, like it goes back to the idea of, but then again, there's a lot of sentient robots. You know what? Maybe you got me there, Dave. I think I will revise to Overwatch.
Okay, so you're really into miniature wargaming. For those who don't know what the hell that is, can you explain it to us?
Well, miniature wargaming is basically it's the Renaissance man's game or hobby. It's essentially you purchase, build, model, and paint to the best of your ability tiny toy soldiers that you then put on a table and you have them fight each other using dice and measuring tape and stuff and sets of rules. There's different games from different game company following different themes. I play a lot of Warhammer 40,000, which is a very grim, far future science fiction setting. I also play some Malifaux, which is a weird West type thing with which is kind of Western but with magic and demons. And I mostly do it for the artistic thing. Like I like painting the miniatures and I like, doing dioramas and stuff and coming up with cool stories for my armies. Because I'm a terrible strategist. I'm very, very bad at actually playing the games. But I have pretty toys.
So it's just another way of kind of expressing your creativity.
I guess it's a very zen experience to sit down and model and paint some miniatures.
Okay, so what's your favorite ever piece of sci-fi? Okay, it can be anything like TV, film, video games, comic books, and what about fantasy? Let's ask for sci-fi. Let's ask for fantasy.
Okay, here's the thing. This is why I answered No Man's Sky previously, because right now my favorite piece of sci-fi is the Overwatch universe, because it is the kind of future I would kind of like to see. There's a certain optimism, a certain brightness to it that I really enjoy. And as far as sci-fi tropes and elements, it is very much all over the place. You've got genetically engineered monkeys, apes. You've got people with weird superpowers, sentient robots. It's got it all, but it's got it all in a non-typical dystopian fashion. Like this isn't like your Philip K. Dick future. This is a much brighter, more interesting, more optimistic future, and I really love it.
Well,
like,
okay. Okay, let me of anything that you've ever experienced related to sci-fi, is it the favorite thing ever?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
It does trump everything. There's a reason why I do an Overwatch podcast, is because it's not as much the gameplay of the game. It's an amazing first-person shooter, but what interests me the most, and if you listen to the podcast, you'll see that, is what interests me is the lore behind it, the story, and how Blizzard is sort of building it from. They're building the story everywhere except in the game, and the game just is just Easter eggs about the story, and it's brilliant. It's a lovely story. If you watch any of the 3D animated shorts that they have, the storytelling in some of these is just gorgeous. And like I said, it just grabs from all the cool tropes.
What about fantasy? Same question.
Fantasy is harder because fantasy, how to say, I guess my favorite fantasy, if you step away from horror fantasy, or can we go in that realm?
You can.
My favorite fantasy anything would in that case be it's kind of a modern fantasy story written by Clive Barker called Galilei, and it's what I like about that book and that story is that there is a mix of wonder, beauty, and terror that it just speaks to me. Like I love the idea of blurring that line between what is, supposed to be terror. No, I bring that up because that's something I wanted to do thematically with God in the Shed, is have something that's both terribly beautiful and beautifully terrible. Mm-hmm. And I find the reason why I latch onto that theme is because of that book.
Interesting. All right. So are there some movies, TV shows, books, video games that are coming out soon that you're really looking forward to? I know fall season is just around the corner. Do you have something that's coming on soon that you're interested in?
I'm mostly interested in a bunch of things that have come out and I haven't had a chance to watch yet. I'm so far behind on the things I should be watching that I'm not even that aware of what's coming out next season.
But what's something that you have wanted to watch for a while that's been out for a while?
That's been out for a while. I absolutely need to watch The Expanse. Sounds like it's my kind of sci-fi, a bit too dystopic, but still like the kind of storytelling I like. Very character focused, very very well built world. Stranger Things sounds like it's going to be exactly up my alley. Like everybody that knows me, everybody that knows what I like to see in stories has been just ranting at me that Stranger Things was essentially written for me. So, well, from what I understand, it was written for a lot of people because it's very popular.
It's very good.
Yeah, I've heard.
You haven't watched it yet.
It's been a rough 2 weeks, Dave.
I know.
As for things that are coming, I am really eager to see Rogue One. I'm very curious to see what this is going to be about. I've got some reservations. There's a couple of scenes in the trailers that make me twitch, but otherwise, I mean, it's Star Wars, and I like the idea of exploring these side stories.
What's your thoughts on the new Star Trek series? I know that we don't know much about it yet, but of what you've heard, are you interested?
More or less. Here's the thing with it, right? I think they're going in the right direction in wanting to recapture the spirit of exploration that is Star Trek. That is, I think, the correct path. However, I think that they chickened out the moment they had that idea. They chickened out and decided we're going to put it in the past. We're going to go somewhere safe. We're not going to try anything new, and that part worries me.
Okay. Honest answer. I can see where you're going with that. Definitely.
Here's what I hope. Like, one of the things that they mentioned was that it would be anthology and it wouldn't necessarily focus like on the bridge crew. And where I think this could possibly be interesting is if they take it in the direction that each season is a year in the life of a particular character. This is, Henson Tom or whatever, or Ensign Ginger. And this is the first season is them just coming out of the academy on their first voyage. And just every season be one of these years so that you see the evolution, not of a ship like where you're seeing, but the evolution of a character. But then again, they introduced a ship based on an old concept. Everyone's in love with it because they saw that drawing before. I have a feeling after a few episodes of seeing that ship, we're not going to be as in love with it anymore. This is something I've seen is going to wear off, and we're going to see some of the design flaws. But yeah, I sound super pessimistic. I'm not. I just see a lot of potential pitfalls that I'm hoping they avoid.
I think they have it covered just from the people that are involved. I think we're going to be fine. Just the writing staff, the producers, everybody behind it. It seems like they picked the right people to run it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really depends. Do they have the right people that were given the wrong container to work with, or do they have the right people in the right container? Like, Again, you know what? We'll see how it is. We have zero information to base anything. We have basic tidbits here and there. I'm not a super fan of the design of the ship. I know it was a concept piece that was originally done, but there's a reason they rejected it. So, we'll see.
All right. So is there a guilty pleasure that you enjoy the most? Is there one thing that you, at the end of the day, you want to relax or you just want to get away from writing or doing whatever? And there's that one thing, that one guilty pleasure. Is there something?
I never want to get away from writing. Usually when I want to get away from things, I write, that's my secret to being able to do that. However, guilty pleasure, I really enjoy playing Jetpack Joyride. Not long. I'll play 10 minutes a day. Just do whatever the equivalent of a daily is in there, and then I'll put it away, and that's it. It is a dumb game, but it is meditative in the sense that it doesn't require any thought to do, and the music is cheesy and dumb. Anyways,
nothing wrong with that.
I don't know. I think there is. That's why it's a guilty pleasure.
So anything else that you want to say before we wrap up here? Is there anything that we didn't cover yet that you want to talk about?
Not really. I mean, we've talked about the podcasts I do. And the podcasts I do all relate to one of the three things that we discussed. The Overcast that I host with Amy Frost is about the video game Overwatch. If you're at all curious about that, or you just want to hear two nerds just geek out about a property, it's a good show for that. The Right Brain podcast I do with my fellow co-writer, not co-writer, but fellow writer Paul Inman, is about writing and crowdfunded publishing and just about whatever we're doing and challenges that we encounter as we're trying to sort of build ourselves from hobbyists to professionals. And finally, 40K Radio it's a venerable show that I was invited to take over with two of my co-hosts, Ashley and Matt, at which we discuss Warhammer 40K. It's actually a fairly huge show. Like, it's been here for a long time. It's been here for a long time. So we've taped 4 episodes so far, so we still have our growing pains. Like, we're still getting our chemistry down, but it's going fine so far.
Well, JF, thank you for joining us today. Where can people find your stuff online, either online or offline?
Well, the best place to find me right now is to go on Twitter at JF Dubeau. That's JFDUBEAU, or to go to jfdubeau.com. My website is garbage right now, but you can still find most of the information. It's just not elegantly displayed. I'm looking at fixing it, and in the next few months, assuming people give me a chance to.
All right. That's going to be it. I'm not the best at ending things, so I'm just going to end it just like that. Well, what's the beauty about editing? We don't have to worry about that.